Star Trek Insurrection sucks my balls. It's got cheap styrofoam sets, lame production values, and a budget smaller than an episode of Alf. But to be fair, it's not all terrible. It is the only movie of the franchise where Picard isn't angry, tired, depressed, or crying. In fact, you could say that it's the closest they ever got to capturing the tone of the TV show on the big screen. But it was really more like a good two-parter episode thing. But that was the problem, cause this is a movie. Now First Contact, while it had a shitty script, it had good state-of-the-art visual effects that still look good today. Insurrection special effects look on par with Babylon 5. Or a Sci-Fi Channel original movie. They also got the worst costume designer in the quadrant. Ain't no one winning an Oscar for the JCPenney spring fashion look. Earth tones, people! Everyone wears earth tones. Browns and beige, and mother of pearl. And browns and beiges and dark browns and light browns and browns and beige. Browns and beiges and dark browns and light browns and browns and beige. Everyone's gonna be wearing earth tones because they live on a planet. But anyway, I mean the movie's okay, but I don't know. Something felt like they took a big step backwards after First Contact. Like they had this movie already made and it was in Rick Berman's closet and he said, "Hey, let's release this as the next movie, why not?" Jesus, I spent more on my hair plugs than they did on this movie. So let's begin, shall we? Number 1. Nothing makes sense about the plot. Again. I'm getting a little tired of these fucking Star Trek movies not making any sense. Or having the plots revolve around convenience, only there for setting up the plot. And them thinking that we're too stupid to notice this shit.
Of the feature films that we have done, Star Trek Insurrection undoubtedly is the biggest.
Let's talk about the setup of this movie. First of all, why is Data part of the team observing some podunk colony of people somewhere? Data is the second officer and the operations guy on the Federation flagship, which is apparently bogged down with so much shit to do that they don't know where to start.
Our guests have arrived.
They need us to mediate some territorial dispute.
Oh, no. Oh, yes, so they need us to put out one more brush fire. We can't delay the archaeological expedition to Hanoran.
But instead, he's, quote, on assignment. Now this team of people in invisible costumes are there to do what exactly? Study the Baku, right? They didn't have Data there so he could use his technical abilities to help them design and build the holoship, because that was a secret. And that's why he freaked out, because he started to figure out the secret, and then the guy shot him. Then his fail-safe brain mechanism made him go run around like a crazy man. To me, Data is the last person you want anywhere near a primitive society. Every single time he's been involved in a mission like this one, it's always ended in some kind of horrible disaster.
What's wrong with you? Radioactive. What does that mean?
That was the stun setting. This is not. I only wish to help.
This is how you helped us? By bringing this plague?
I can reduce this pumping station to a pile of debris.
Tried to kill us all?
In human parlance, I do not believe I can get the job done. My training has prepared me for Starship Command duties. As a cultural contact, I am proving to be less than exemplary.
So why would Starfleet send an android who still doesn't really understand emotions or culture to walk around and help study a bunch of throwbacks making dough and herding goats?
His emotion chip?
He didn't take it with him.
So what function does he serve there? other than to conveniently discover the plot that would have gone on without a hitch if they didn't have him there at all.
Next time, leave your android home.
Exactly. Number 2. Plot convenience equals movie suck. So they try to shoot Data's head off when he goes nuts. He eventually shoots a laser gun at the secret observing base, which is conveniently located on a cliff within plain view of the Baku village so they all could see it. Let's think about this for just one moment. Why didn't they locate this facility like 10 miles away in the middle of nowhere in case they had some kind of problem with the cloak? Which is something that has actually happened before. They got sophisticated cameras and monitoring equipment in the future. They really didn't need to have a physical window to look out of, did they? So this happened, of course, before in the episode called Who Watches the Watchers. And that all made a lot more sense on how they went about the whole spying thing. By the way, this random episode of The Next Generation is actually better than all 4 movies combined. So how did they get that little base there anyway? According to Celine Dion, the Baku have been there for 309 years. You'd think they would have noticed if the rock face in their village was suddenly changed. Well, maybe they beamed up the rocks, beamed down the base in the middle of the night, and then projected holographic rocks on top of the base that looked like the rocks that they had beamed away in the... Number 3. Picard's double standard. A few years back, TV show Picard, we'll call him Larry, faced a similar situation where he was forced by Admiral Bicheyev to remove a bunch of Indians from a planet that they gave to the Cardassians in a treaty thing.
What if these Indians refuse to be evacuated?
Then your orders will be to remove them by whatever means are necessary.
So you got non-indigenous groups of settlers, and their presence on the planet is the root of a problem. So Picard does his best to do the diplomacy thing, but after a while he's like, just move the people or they're gonna get killed. Move them by force if you need to, Worf.
It may be necessary to remove these people by force.
But this time Wesley Crusher tries to do his own insurrection thing.
They're preparing to beam you away and take you to their ship. You're not gonna let them do that, are you?
No.
And he gets shot down by Picard.
Inexcusable. You defied the orders of the ranking officer on the scene. I'm about to commit a direct violation of our orders. You put the lives of the entire away team in jeopardy. Take cover! And you made an already tense situation worse.
What you're doing down there is wrong.
And frankly, right now, I don't care.
These people are not some random group of colonists. They're a unique culture with a history that predates the Federation and Starfleet.
That does not alter the fact that my orders are
I know Admiral Nechayev gave you an order.
I'm ordering you to the Goran system.
And she was given an order from the Federation Council.
I'm acting on orders from the Federation Council.
But it's still wrong.
That decision is not yours to make. I won't let you move them, Admiral. But I will tell you this. While you wear that uniform, you will obey every order you are given.
I'm also ordering the release of the Sona officers.
And you will conform to Starfleet regulations and rules of conduct. Is that clear?
Even when the end result is providing billions of people with life-saving radiation,
We'll be able to use the regenerative properties of this radiation to help billions. The needs of the many outweigh
The needs of the few.
in this new situation, without the Indians, he now suddenly wants to defy his orders and risk everything to save white people. I mean, save people he's grown attached to. I doubt Picard would have an insurrection for this guy. TV show Picard would have tried to convince the Baku to leave. And might have even called them selfish pricks for hogging all the radiation for themselves.
But there are times when the greater good demands that certain sacrifices are made.
The Indians actually had more rights than the Baku because they were Federation citizens. But what the Indians didn't have is a MILF that wanted to sit on Picard's face and cock-teased him the whole time.
But I have 318 days of shore leave coming, and
But hey, at least he's gonna get some on shore leave.
I intend to use them.
That'll be the next movie. We'll call it Star Trek, His Erection. Number 4. Eureka! I don't get it! To make this dumb movie look like it has some kind of mystery plot, we're forced to sit through a sequence that makes no sense on so many levels. I don't even know where to start, so I'm just gonna dive right in. Maybe I should have drowned my wife. Then I'd still have my caddy. Maybe I'll drown my new wife, Bambi. She gets on my fucking nerves and starts asking about my life insurance policy again. Anyway, so on the day of lightning, which was last Thursday, I think, Data must have been about to discover the location of the hollow ship, which was hidden in a lake to prevent someone from finding it, even though they find it without any problem when they don't even know what they're looking for. Then, even though the Baku claim to have rejected all technology,
we believe that when you create a machine to do the work of the man, you take something away from the man.
They've built a complex machine they use to drain the lake for no other reason other than to discover a hidden hollow ship. So after they drain out the water, we see how large this hollow ship is, and where the waterline would have been in order to have the ship underwater. Meaning that the dock that they are now standing on after the draining either was underwater all this time, or the Baku had built the dock under the water. If the hollow ship didn't displace any water, and was still submerged, then draining the lake to the point to reveal the hollow ship would have left the dock hanging off the edge of a cliff, or well above the waterline, which isn't what happens in the movie. In the movie, the dock is still on the water, and the hollow ship towers above them, which means that the dock must have been under the water. Like the Baku built the dock underwater, or it was submerged, which means the dock would either be wet or covered in seaweed or something. And if that were the case, the Baku would have noticed that the water was much higher than it used to be. So basically, none of this makes sense. But what really doesn't make any sense is why didn't they just put the hollow ship like 500 miles away on another continent? Or in fucking orbit?
This ship is equipped with 14 long-range transporters.
They were planning to transport the people onto the ship anyways, so why hide it in a lake? Other than to have Picard and Data discover it to create the illusion that this movie has some kind of interesting mystery plot. Someone also please tell me the logic of having to hide something that's invisible. So then Picard and Data and whatever her name is take a rowboat out to the hollow ship. And then they climb up a set of invisible stairs to get on board the ship and look around. Climb on board with ease. But in the next scene, that girl falls 50 feet out the same entrance hatch. And then they decloak the ship to reveal that there were no stairs there and they really couldn't have climbed up with ease. How the fuck did they get up there? Nothing makes sense. Even my life. Number 4, hollow ship or hollow plot. Now the hollow ship itself don't make much sense. In fact, the entire reason behind it is self-defeating and stupid. You see, there would be no movie if Admiral Old Man had said,
"Attention Baku, this is a Federation planet. The Federation Council has said they want you out of here. We'll take you to a new planet, or you can choose to stay here. But we're doing something that will kill you if you do. Please do not resist us. Thank you. If you have any further questions, please go to www.bakudeathcamp.com. And there you can find some more information about our plan and what will happen to you."
Instead, they got this lame hollow ship scenario, which is almost like me telling my grandkids that I'm going to take them to Disneyland in the car. But where we're really going is just to get my catheter put in. Eventually they'll realize that we're not going to Disneyland when we get there. And the only Mickey they're going to meet is a black nurse who's going to shove a tube up my dick. My point is, why bother to create this elaborate deception for the Baku? They're just going to find out eventually. Sure, a hollow ship might trick them for a day or two, but when they find that they can't eat food made of light and force fields, and their piss and shit is sliding around the floor, they might be onto us. They're certainly going to think something's wrong when they wake up on a new planet.
You go to sleep one night in the village, wake up the next morning on this flying holodeck.
Also, the notion that the entire Baku village all sleeps at the same time, like a children's storybook, is pretty stupid. There's always going to be that one couple that's up at 3 a.m. arguing about who drank the last can of Milwaukee's Best. Look, Just relocate the fucking people, okay? It's what we did with the Indians on Earth, and look how that turned out. We have so many wonderful casinos. That's where I met Bambi, my new wife. She's 19, and she's on drugs. Number 5. More convenience than a 24-hour Walgreens. Either Picard knows his crew really well, or they know him really well. In either case, in this scene, so many assumptions are made that everything fits neatly together for the next scene. First off, Picard, whom at this point thinks he's acting alone, heads down to the storage room to load up on guns and weapons to bring with them to a planet of pacifists that hate weapons.
The moment we pick up a weapon, we become one of them. We lose everything we are.
So why exactly was Picard traveling with
7 metric tons of Ultradium explosives, 8 Tetryon pulse launchers, and 10 isomagnetic disintegrators.
Even at the end of the film, during all the action, we don't even see one able-bodied male picking up a gun to help defend the people. Then the crew come down, and they all seem to know or assume ahead of time which ones are going with and who's staying on the ship. Maybe they read the script in advance. Riker and Geordi end up staying on the ship, so they're wearing their uniforms. Everybody else is dressed in the Baku JCPenney fashions. Of course, all this was done ahead of time without Picard knowing. So what if Picard says, "Hey, Dr. Crusher, you stay behind Geordi, I want you coming down to the planet." Then what? Then they'd both have to go back to their quarters and change. That would have been awkward.
I feel obliged to point out that the environmental anomalies may have stimulated certain rebellious instincts common to youth, which could affect everyone's judgment. Except mine, of course.
Data, please respond.
Number 6, Baku birth control. Pull out, pull out! The Baku like the Baku. This is obvious based on how Octomom wants the rubber twins on both of Picard's heads.
It's been 300 years since I've seen a bald man.
They seem like a normal group of folks, and while yes, they're technically aliens, they appear to be very similar to humans in a lot of respects. When Picard meets that little stupid kid, he says,
I suppose you're 75.
No, I'm 12.
So the kid was born 12 years ago, eh? And by year, I assume they mean Earth year. Now, I've examined this film with a team of perverts, and we've discovered that there are about 30 or so random kids in that age range running around the Baku village, meaning that 30 or so couples had children roughly 10 to 12 years ago. So in order for the current number of Baku to be 600, that small group that guy referred to...
A small group of us set off to find...
Shut up, I'm talking. Well, they would have been like 20 people, or 10 couples, having only 1 or 2 children every 10 years or so. So not accounting for the issue of generational inbreeding, but the other problem is that most couples Baku more than 1 time every 10 years. And these people don't age. They stay in sexual maturity for hundreds of years. This observation is based on the fact that a 300-year-old woman wants to access Picard's manual steering column. So the Baku don't become old folks like me who wear diapers. I mean just old folks like me. And statistically, it's true that people that live in rural areas have more children than those that don't. Farm living is slow, dull, and when it ain't harvest season, there's little to do other than Bakuing. Bambi and I Bakued in the bathroom at the casino, but she kept asking me if I had any pills she could score. She's such a wonderful lady. On the TV show, a colony ship crashed into a planet. In just 90 years, their population grew to
15,253, sir.
15,000?
So after 309 years, by my calculations, the Baku should have a population of roughly 3,745,916 people. This is based on an exponentially driven population multiplication effect, further multiplied by a species that does not age, lives in a rural area, and does not have access to modern-day birth control or prophylactics. Number 7. Strange Bedfellows. The main villain in Insurrection is a guy named Ruafo, who's played by Candice Bergman. Ruafo and the rest of the Sona, well, they used to be Baku.
A century ago, a group of our young people wanted...
Shut up, I'm talking. But my real question is, where is the Admiral's ship?
That's our ship.
That's your ship? That's the ship that all the Federation people came on? A little shuttle? Admirals always travel around in style on big Federation ships, the very least in Excelsior class. But this situation requires even more attention, because we're dealing with a truly priceless advancement in technology. And we're also working with a really sketchy alien race that look like monsters. And they got 5 huge powerful warships. What's to stop them from just killing all the Federation people, taking the goods and leaving? A couple of ships on our side would strengthen our hand a little in preventing that. But a starship or two there would mess up the plot. Does anyone even think about the details of a movie before they make it? I honestly don't think that anybody really cared about what movie they were making at all. I think they were all just glad to be working. Glad to be working. Just glad to be working. Glad to be working. Just glad to be working. Really, just glad to be working. Glad to still be working. Glad to be working. Glad to not be dead. Really glad to be working. Number 8. Things continue to keep not making sense. Why is Geordi at the con station? Shouldn't he be at the engineering station or in engineering? Fuck you, that's late. So Picard and Worf are on a shuttle, and Picard tries to make a connection with Data by singing a play they were rehearsing earlier. Now he's on some random shuttlecraft, and by pressing just 2 buttons, he's able to bring up the play HMS Pinafore. How does a 2-button command bring up such a specific thing on a computer screen? Now in normal operations, when doing a pretty basic task, it seems like they always press a million buttons. Even when nothing is going on, they're pressing buttons.
So, how was the reunion?
But pressing 2 buttons brings up an obscure play. Even pressing 2 buttons on the Sona ship secures the bridge.
I've secured the bridge.
Good thing he didn't hit the wrong second button. He could have brought up a sing-along play. So the first time we see that guy, he's wearing that outfit. Then at night he's still wearing that outfit. And then the following day he's still wearing that outfit. Hey asshole, get some new clothes! Back to when Worf and Picard are flying around the sky. Somehow damage to the shuttle causes a nozzle to turn on in the background and begin spraying out a benign white smoke into the cabin, like they were on the set of a cheap science fiction movie. Worf then goes to the back of the cabin to press a button to shut off the nozzle. Soon after he gets back, the shuttle starts spinning round and round. But for some reason, they don't fly out of their seats and get thrown about all over the cabin, even though they're not wearing seatbelts. What's holding them there? Centrifugal force? Yeah, they're not spinning fast enough. Some kind of gravity thing or inertial dampeners? Wrong. Because people fly out of the chairs all the time in Star Trek. So why aren't they bouncing around the cabin, breaking all their bones and suffering horrible injuries? Oh, wait. Because it's not part of the plot. So that Baku f***it admits to trying to fix Data.
There was a phase variance in his positronic matrix which we were unable to repair.
But with what tools? I thought they rejected technology. Or do they have some kind of secret area filled with technological equipment they need when their dumb Amish philosophy fails them? In this next scene, when there's an explosion, some stuntmen are pulled off a bridge at the same time by invisible cables. Now this is never explained any time during the film. Why was this cable system in place? And more importantly, why were some stuntmen there disguised as Baku? And why were they practicing this movie stunt during a town emergency? They should have been helping people escape, and not rehearsing for their gig at Universal Studios. At night on the Baku planet, things look so scenic and well lit, but we don't see any artificial lights on the homes. And I didn't see a moon anywhere, so where's all that light coming from? Even if there was a moon and a sun just like Earth, how is it shining and reflecting Earth-like lighting conditions when there's all that fucking red gas everywhere? It's because they just filmed in California and didn't bother with making this planet look truly alien. Fuck you, Rick Berman. Fuck you, you lazy-ass motherfucker.
Have you ever experienced a perfect moment in time?
A perfect moment.
When time seemed to stop, and you could almost live in that moment?
Seeing my home planet from space.
Number 9. Symphony of Stupid. Insurrection is a symphony of stupid. It's like Beethoven's Symphony No. 5, but for below-average Hollywood hack-job filmmakers and producers. The day of reckoning is here. I'm like Sinead O'Connor, and you're like a picture of the Pope. Prepare to get torn up. So if Picard and his entire senior staff are rebelling, and Riker is technically disobeying orders,
No uniform, no orders. Open hailing frequencies.
Frequencies open, sir.
Stand ready to initiate transporter code 14 at my signal. You have your orders, Commander. And I expect you to follow them.
Captain, how could I look at another sunrise knowing...
Shut up, I'm talking. And also commanding the Enterprise while disobeying orders, then why not use the resources of the Enterprise to move the Baku quickly? They could beam all 600 people from the town to right outside of the caves.
Inside the caves, quickly!
Using all the transporters in like 23 seconds. Then they could have them all hide in the caves, and the Enterprise could hightail it out of the Briar Patch. Or at the very fucking least, if you're taking down the captain's yacht, then use that ship to help on the surface while you're evacuating people. Data could fly it around, extend the shields, use it to shoot tachyon things around to interfere with their transporters. He could fire at the isolinear tag drones, and so on. Couldn't have hurt. On that note, where did they leave the captain's yacht? Was it back in town? Does that mean Data ran all the way back to town to get it in order to take it up into space?
One person aboard. It's the android.
He's no threat.
Perlovdo. Remember in the beginning of the movie?
Your android has turned dangerously violent, Captain.
The android has been nothing but the biggest problem to you ever.
He must be destroyed. He's no threat.
Also, how and when did the holoship end up in space? So then instead of some time-wasting complex plan involving tricking Ruafo into thinking he was on his own bridge deploying the Collector, why didn't Data just blow up the Collector? He had access to a ship, so why not fly it around to the other side of the planet, approach the Collector from behind, and blammo! Problem solved. So Chef Boyardee realizes she's been duped by Picard. And then he figures out a way to beam over to the Collector. And so does Picard. But neither beam over with some of their homies as backup. Ruffalo's goal is to turn on the Collector manually. Picard's goal is to activate the Collector's self-destruct.
Is there a self-destruct?
Yes, but without the codes, it would have to be activated at the upper control matrix on the Collector.
Now this all ends up being very helpful to Picard, but why did the Sona design the Collector with a self-destruct on it in the first place? I can see a starship needing a self-destruct function for a whole mess of reasons.
Destruct sequence is activated.
But this Collector is their very complex piece of technology that they built to help ensure the preservation of their race. At the very least, it should have extra shielding and a ton of failsafe systems to prevent anything from damaging it. Does the Hubble Space Telescope have a self-destruct on it? What about Fermilab? Or Bambi's 97 Ford Escort? Does everything in Star Trek have a self-destruct on it? So Picard and Rufaro fight each other on a set with a blue screen background that didn't quite work out, so they just left it. Picard and Rufaro trade action movie cliches.
Ruafo, we're getting too old for this.
Time's up.
And Rufaro doesn't shoot Picard in the back when he has the chance to, even though he had no problems with killing Admiral Doherty a few hours earlier.
Admiral Doherty will not be joining us for dinner.
And no, Rufo didn't know that he could ignite the gas, that's why he didn't fire. Because when Picard tells him, he kind of makes this, oh shit, you're right kind of face.
I will.
So Riker finally gets back from the battle, and from sending a message to Starfleet. He arrives just in the nick of time from what was before a 2-day-long trip to the edge of the Briar Patch.
We're still 36 minutes from transmission range, sir.
But now he's back, and flying into a whole new situation. They use their scanners and see that Worf is on the Sona ship with the Baku.
Sensors are reading over 100 Baku on board, and 1 Klingon.
So I guess these weird aliens are also Baku, huh? Hey, check your sensors, honey pie. Or, maybe I could check your sensors for you. Ooh. That's right. Hey, baby. Looks like you're a Trill. Maybe I could put my worm inside you. Wait a minute. Maybe she just didn't mention the Mugalor, or the Watnu, or the Plagnosian, because she didn't think it was pertinent information. What other things are you keeping from me? Are you lying to me? This relationship is over. But anyways, you see, they don't even talk with Worf until after the Collector blows up.
Sir, Ruafo's ship is hailing us.
On screen.
Captain, the Sona crew would like to negotiate a ceasefire.
So Riker doesn't really know what's going on. He does know Picard is on the Collector.
I may need a lift in a minute or so.
We're on our way.
And, according to Dr. Crusher, a scan of a Sona comes back as a Baku, as so it should. And they've shown that they could scan and pick up Baku life signs on the ship.
Sensors are reading over 100 Baku on board.
Wouldn't they have shown that Picard and a Baku were on the Collector then? Plus, Riker didn't know that the Baku and the Sona are the same race. That was revealed when he was gone.
The Sona and the Baku are the same race.
So when the Collector is blowing up, the Enterprise beams up only Picard and leaves the Rufalo to die horribly. Now this isn't really Starfleet's way. If anything, Star Trek was always about doing what's right.
No, I won't kill you. No, I won't kill him!
Even offering a hand to your enemy when they've done nothing but try to kill you.
Give me your hand!
But now I guess this is action schlock, and it's okay to let the bad guy die horribly. The scary part is that Riker wasn't exactly 100% sure what was happening over there. It could have been entirely possible that Ruafo realized the error of his ways, and decided to help Picard shut down the Collector. Maybe Picard made some kind of tear-jerking speech to Ruafo about how the Baku are really his family, and then maybe Ruafo changed his mind. Or it could have been just some Baku guy helping Picard. Point is, Riker didn't know for sure because he hadn't yet got the story from Worf. Heck, Ruafo could have even had a change of heart while on the Collector. Things could have easily gone like this. Just in the nick of time, like always, number one. Where's Ruafo? Where's Ruafo? Oh, we just beamed you up. What do you mean? Well, we just beamed you up, sir. You left him on the Collector? Well, we thought you were doing the, the end of the action movie thing with the bad guy. You know, where you fight on the top of an exploding building and say cliché lines like, "We're getting too old for this?" Oh no, it wasn't like that at all. Ruafo was helping me shut down the Collector. He was looking forward to rejoining the Baku and seeing his dear mother again. I did the whole convincing speech thing. Oh, well, this is awkward. Oh, don't worry about it, number one. I know what will make it all better. Pizza rolls. Email me if you want a pizza roll. Post a comment on this webpage if you want a pizza roll, and I'll send you one in the mail. Yay! He finally changed his fucking outfit.